All right, that should be fixed. Let me know if you can hear me now. Welcome back to World War Live, everybody. I'm your host, Conrad Franz, here on Tuesday evening. Good to be getting back into the swing of things. Apologies, I had all my settings correct. I wasn't even muted. The microphone was just completely turned off. So, sorry, we're a little tired here today. If you couldn't tell, a little bit sleepy, but it's okay. We're here. We're going to do what we can, what we came here to do, which is talk about not just the ongoing Third World War for your midweek Tuesday update, but also obviously what's going on, which I think does apply to the Third World War, but what is going on, of course, in the United States here in Los Angeles and these other places with these huge protests. Obviously, most of the show, the focus of the show is, foreign policy, not as much domestic policy and the sort of day-to-day of United States fake theater politics. But, what's happening right now, it obviously involves a lot of issues regarding immigration and the future of legislation regarding that, demographics, and a lot of conversations about people waving foreign flags and how certain people should or shouldn't be allowed to present themselves here in the United States. And we're seeing, even from Mexican politicians, we're seeing a lot of strange calls for retaking territory and, La Raza and New Mexico restoring the territory that Mexico had prior to the Mexican-American War, and, the Texas War for Independence and these other things where many American and European uh, settlers and colonists fought and, achieved independence from Mexico and from Spain and from these other powers. So everything going on right now with the military having been deployed to Los Angeles, we're going to be getting into a little bit of that, hearing my analysis. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in here on this Tuesday evening. I want to encourage everyone to please send a super chat. If you want to ask any questions about pretty much anything, send in a super chat. I will happily answer it and address the question as best as I can. Everybody also needs to be sure to, if you are behind the paywall, which I encourage you to get behind the paywall, be sure to ask us a question on our latest Q&A thread in the chat. If you haven't done that already, please be sure to do it. We are likely recording that episode tomorrow during the day, so get in your final questions on our Q&A thread. You can do all of that at worldwarnow.co. If you're here listening on YouTube, that is linked right down below in the description. You can check that out, get behind the paywall. For just $7 a month or $75 a year, you can help us out, keep everything going here at World War Now, and get access to, of course, all of our hundreds and hundreds of hours of premium Ether Hour content, interviews with Abbot Trifon, Father Peter Heers, Cameron McGregor, Ryan Dawson, Jay Dyer, all sorts of incredible content. David Erhan, David Patrick Harry, really, really good stuff. So be sure to get behind that paywall, support the show, and check out all of that fantastic content that everybody's doing all of this. So thank you all for the support. And speaking of support, we have our first super chat, $5 from Paisios. He says, "You need to become a priest so that beard can make sense. Lol, also, will you ever officially change your name to Haji Conrad?" Well, I'm not sure I would be a great priest. I'm just a guy, but maybe someday, right? But, my beard, it's been worse in the past, not the greatest beard. Haven't shaved in a while, so this shows you kind of the best that it can get. But I'm probably actually going to shave it pretty soon. But, as a white man, I don't know if I could be, Haji. It makes me think of Johnny Quest. If people remember that show from back in like the 60s or whatever. Johnny Quest and his brown friend Haji. They would go on these missions with, Johnny Quest's dad and Race Bannon and the dog. And there was the episode where they're with the airplane, fighting the airplane, worshiping like pygmies. And then there's the episode with the invisible monster, the episode with the Yetis. It was a great show going down memory lane here. But yeah, I got to go on some more Hajjs, as it were, some more pilgrimages, hopefully back to Greece, Manathos, Cyprus, Russia, hopefully sooner rather than later. So thank you for the $5, Paisios. Your support is much appreciated. Even though this isn't a super chat, it's an important message. Paul Campbell just subbed on Substack. It's worth the price on just a few episodes alone. So true. There are a few episodes like episode 20, our latest episode about Tsarist Russia and Syria, our episode with Jay Dyer. Some of these are worth the $7 just on their own, but you don't just get those episodes. You get 81, actually over 81 episodes, because there was episode 13.5 about space, how space is fake, with me and Anthony of Westgate. A lot of great Ether Hour content with Anthony of Westgate. So be sure to check that out. Again, I think some of the most underrated content on the internet, if I'm being honest here. So worldwarnow.co, check it out. Thank you all so much for checking it out. And those that already subscribed, I can't thank you enough. But I guess we can just head on over to the news here. I can't say how long this show is necessarily going to be per se, but trying to figure out the best way to, I guess that's the best way to look at this right now. So the big news is about the Marines being deployed to Los Angeles. Obviously, Trump has now discussed, he hasn't done it yet, but he has discussed opening, or rather invoking the Insurrection Act. Sorry, I'm sleepy this evening, guys. But Father James Anthony, Conrad, I think, is a better nickname. COINTELPRO. But we got some people praising the beard. Appreciate the love, everybody. Very tired. I went to the monastery this morning, so I'm sleepy from waking up early to get to the service. But the big news about this is ostensibly good news. The judge denies California request for immediate restraining order on use of Marines and National Guard in LA. A federal judge on Tuesday denied an emergency motion from California Governor Gavin Newsom asking to immediately restrict the Trump administration's use of troops in Los Angeles, but scheduled a Thursday hearing over the state's request for a temporary restraining order. Around 700 Marines are set to deploy to the Los Angeles area to protect federal buildings and law enforcement in the wake of protests over the Trump administration's immigration raids. The troops are joining the thousands of National Guard members who were already activated by President Donald Trump over the weekend without Newsom's consent. If I didn't send in the troops to Los Angeles the last 3 nights, that once beautiful and great city would be burning to the ground right now, much like 25,000 houses burned to the ground in LA due to an incompetent governor and mayor, Trump posted on Truth Social Tuesday morning, referring to the January wildfires that were caused by dry conditions and strong winds. The deployment of the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, based at the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center in 29 Palms, California, marks the first time in over 3 decades that Marines have been mobilized inside the United States to respond to civil unrest. Their presence represents a striking escalation of federal involvement in what began as local protests over immigration enforcement. Newsom's request for an immediate temporary restraining order specifically requested that a judge blocks plans by the federal government to use Marines and federalized National Guard to enforce immigration laws and other civil laws on the streets of our cities. California National Guard units received new orders on Monday that included providing support for counter-immigration operations, not only at federal buildings. The state of California asserted in the filing that the deployment creates imminent harm to state sovereignty, deprives the state of vital resources, escalates tensions, and promotes, rather than quells, civil unrest. The Trump administration opposed the state's request, calling it legally meritless, and saying the restraining order it sought would be an extraordinary, unprecedented, and dangerous court order. The administration also asked for more time to respond. The judge granted that additional time in the Tuesday ruling, giving the administration until Wednesday to file its response and setting a hearing for the following day. The estimated cost of deploying the National Guard Marines area is $134 million. Brian McDonald, top Pentagon official, testifying before the House on Tuesday. So, obviously, this is coming in the wake of not just the ongoing battle in the Senate right now for the big, beautiful bill, which will designate $150 billion towards border control and ICE and immigration enforcement and these sorts of things, which I do support. And despite the fact that, while I am very much against some of this AI regulation and legislation that's in the bill that obviously has been pointed out, I do think Elon Musk is, he's clearly the one frustrated about not getting the things that he specifically wanted to make more money in the bill and in the current Trump administration. So he's the one opposing it. I do think that if we're getting that much for immigration enforcement, it is better to just get this bill passed, even if it has a bunch of terrible pork in it. But these riots are, of course, in response to the supposed big immigration raids that have been going on. And people remember the video that came out earlier this week. I believe it was in Los Angeles, somewhere, California, where a bunch of some kind of ICE or immigration enforcement, or even DEA, I think in some capacity, were about to do a raid. Ironically, not an immigration raid. It was on a cartel network or a cartel figure. But all these employees basically just drove the ICE people away. The video, I'm sure people saw the video. But this was a bad look, because it's clear that if these ICE people are willing to just back down at civilian protests, then, well, left-wing people are going to organize civilian protests all over the United States, because then all the ICE people are just going to back down. Obviously, Trump didn't want to see that happen. So in the midst of all the violence, he has sent in the troops, as it were, as he said in that post. And I've been watching the footage of the riots, and some of it's not great, but it's nothing. It's looking nothing even close to, the summer of Floyd 2020 or anything akin to that. And of course, it's taking on the flavor of the day. There's more Palestinian flags, a lot of Mexican flags, obviously. I mean, Southern California is a completely third world part of the country at this point. So not exactly a whole lot of white people you see out there, but a lot of the very brown third worldist coded La Raza protesters with the Palestinian flags. And then we saw the 5 Waymo cars that got burned, which I thought was just kind of keck, the self-driving cars. But, at this point, there is probably a bit of an escalating effect where Trump sending in the troops might activate a few more of these protesters. But in the long term, I don't think that enough people, even any white people or any of these organized white Antifa or other people, are actually motivated enough right now in defense of these immigrants to take to the street. They don't have the level of support that America was giving the riots at the very beginning, because people forget. And Scott Greer had a good podcast on this recently about sort of a 5-year retrospective on the summer of Floyd and the death of George Floyd. And like, they had support from every facet of society. Conservatives were trying to blame white Antifa as opposed to the black race protesters. It was a very, very sad blackpilling time, considering how many quote unquote conservatives completely supported the prosecution of Chauvin, and then at the time were also fanning the flames of the fires of the whole Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, all these other, race hoaxes, basically, of black people that were unfortunately shot by the police because they were in the middle of committing unfortunate crimes. And in the case of George Floyd, was of course overdosing on fentanyl. But these current ones that are going on right now is it's in response to this immigration. It's a pretty much pro-Great Replacement protest, as I like to call it. We have seen very recently, let me see if I can find the specific information. Yes. We've got this right here. The president of the Mexican Senate will build the wall and pay for it, but will do it according to the 1830 map of Mexico. Mexicans were settled in these territories before the U.S. The Mexicans living there are on what has always been their homeland. And he holds up one of these. So if anyone wants to see, so according to this guy, I'm actually currently in Mexico. So buenos dias or whatever. But I think, Mexico, not a very serious country. These people can't even control the territory, much more small territory they currently have, as it is controlled by the cartels, but they think they can administer Texas, Arizona, Colorado, California, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada. Yeah, that's not really going to happen. If anything, it's more likely the United States reclaims a lot of northern Mexico. But ultimately, these people are all in favor of North American Union, most likely, which I pray doesn't happen. Was it Father Anthony? Control of electronic radiation was a U.S. civil defense system used during the Cold War to prevent enemy bombers before the Civil Defense and Emergency Broadcasting System. Conrad. I like it. Unfortunately, it almost sounds like Conrad, which was my joke about how my name sounds like Sonenrad, which, sorry for, I'm just goofing around at this point, but we're seeing a lot of this rhetoric. We also see rhetoric from Claudia Sheinbaum, the left-wing Jewish president of Mexico, who's talking about how we need to support Mexicans in these protests in Los Angeles, almost supporting the protests, calling out against, fascism and the persecution of their people in the United States. It's like, well, don't you want your great people to come back if they are so valuable? But we know that these countries like to dump their trash, of course, into the United States, by people. And sorry, as I'm streaming this, many things are unfolding regarding the riots. We have new things from Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles. She says, I'm closely monitoring the situation in downtown Los Angeles and am preparing to take new action to protect our communities. Stay alert and be ready to follow any safety measures that may be announced soon. This is also after she announced a curfew for downtown Los Angeles. I don't know the time that it will be, but people in their Mexican flags are already starting to gather. And we had Hassan Piker showing up to these rallies like an absolute dweeb. But whether these, escalate further around the country, I know that there are protests planned for Chicago. Last night in Austin, where I'm at, there were protests that had tear gas deployed. So I hope things don't get too crazy. But again, I don't really see the energy from the left. I don't even see the money from some of these Sorosite and Soros type people that could, come in here and really stoke this into something that could become a nationwide movement. So maybe I'm speaking too soon, but I just don't really see it happening right now. But thank you to everybody for tuning in. Solid viewership right now here on a Tuesday evening. So if you want to have any questions asked, be sure to send a super chat, $2, $5, $10, $100. I'm answering everything. So thank you so much for tuning in. We're not quite at the level of, cozy riot watch stream yet where, I remember how cozy it was during the summer of Floyd. You'd lock into your stream, want a multi-stream going, 10 different cities, seeing people dying, people getting sucked under trucks, crazy things happening. It was a bit of a vibe. We got Gregory here's in chat. Good evening, Gregory. Great to see you. Huge friend of the show, critical member of the World War Now extended universe. We're going to be doing an episode with Gregory later this month, about Nikephoros Phokas, Byzantine emperor. So stay tuned for that. Another great reason to get behind the paywall. You will be getting the Nikephoros Phokas episode immediately, full access before it even, you'll have access to it before it even drops effectively. So be sure to do all of that. It's great to have everybody hanging out. But unless anything else comes up regarding these protests, nothing super breaking news happening right now. Obviously, we have to talk about the developing situation in the Middle East. Obviously, by Friday, things will have changed, and we will discuss things on the latest World War Now episode. But we are pretty much awaiting the total collapse of Iran-U.S. negotiations. Trump, again at the last minute, seemed to leave a bit of a door open in his recent talks for negotiations. But I'll share this tab instead. Sorry, my articles I had pulled up to discussion here. So from Dave DeCamp, our good friend Dave DeCamp, editor of antiwar.com, he says, Iran says it will present a counter-proposal to the U.S. in nuclear talks. The Iranian Foreign Ministry also called for pressure on Israel over its secret nuclear weapons program. So in the midst of all of this, Iran also apparently obtained a huge intelligence leak about Israeli nuclear capabilities, nuclear sites, the location of their nuclear missile silos, which they claim will be targeted if, for example, Israel and the United States, or just Israel by itself, strike Iran's nuclear capabilities. So let's read this here. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said on Monday that it will present a counter-proposal to the U.S.'s offer on a potential nuclear deal. The U.S. proposal is not acceptable to us, and this is the one that supposedly included limited enrichment. It was not the result of previous rounds of negotiations. We will present our own proposal to the other side via Oman after it is finalized. This proposal is reasonable, logical, and balanced, said Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismaili Bagai. The U.S. and Iran have been at odds over Iran's nuclear enrichment program, which President Trump and other U.S. officials have demanded must be eliminated altogether, a condition that's a non-starter for Tehran. According to media reports, the U.S.'s proposal would allow Iranian uranium enrichment at a low level for only an interim period, while separate nuclear facilities involving other countries are established. Some reports say the offer didn't specify where the nuclear facilities would be, and that Iran could be open to a nuclear consortium on its own soil, but there has been conflicting information. Iranian officials say another major problem with the U.S. proposal was that it didn't offer details on sanctions relief. We must ensure before the lifting of sanctions that Iran will effectively benefit economically and that its banking and trade relations with other countries will return to normal, Bagai said. Bagai also discussed Israel's secret nuclear weapons program and called for international pressure on Israel to disarm. He said that Israeli documents Iran claims it has obtained will show the parties constantly questioning Iran's peaceful nuclear program actively work to strengthen Israel's military nuclear program. To date, the U.S. and Iran have held 5 rounds of nuclear talks, and the 6th is expected to take place on Thursday. President Trump has been conducting the negotiations under the threat that if they fail, he will bomb Iran's nuclear facilities, even though his intelligence agencies have said there's no evidence Tehran is working towards a bomb. And of course, as discussed on the latest episode about how the Israelis said that, oh, if there's a deal, if there's a good deal, we're not going to strike Israel. We're definitely not going to do that. Kind of saying, hey, we support a deal, which comes right amidst this big flare up where it's clear that even with the U.S. willing to concede on a certain level of domestic enrichment for Iran, it's not enough for the Iranians. And with Trump simultaneously saying that enrichment is a red line for him, it's clear that there is not going to be any kind of deal here that has anything to do with these current round of negotiations. So here in mid-June, we will have well and thoroughly passed Trump's 6-week or whatever it was, 2-month or something deadline for negotiations, when Trump himself said, and I quote, Israel won't drag us into a war, but if it goes there, I will go there myself. So basically just admitting that Israel is going to drag us into a war. But seeing the chat as well, Father James, he says, Gregory, your great work on the St. John III Ducas Vitatis English language episode is a blessing to us all. It's very true. Again, I was very happy to go to Father James's parish, and I took a picture of him in front of their beautiful St. John Vitatis icon. And I hope everybody spreads the word of the marble emperor and, his life as a saint and how he glorifies Christ with his life to everyone that could be interested. It's one of my favorite episodes, those series, parts 1 and 2 that we have with Gregory. So really great stuff. But I think, again, as we discussed in our recent World War Now episodes, June and July, but maybe August, I think are really going to tell the tale when it comes to the Israeli strikes on Iran. And if I had to my guess, I'd think mid to late July is when we might really see that happen. And that's not a prophecy-based perspective at this point. That's a news analysis base that, again, we already know what's going to happen based on the prophetic revelation. The question is, in a worldly geopolitical sense, how is this going to happen? And I think it'll happen in the context of, I think something will occur to make people think it won't, and then it will surprise everybody, and things will start to escalate very dramatically. And after all these years, I think really since 2022, February, the reign of the nothing ever happens chud will come to an end, and something will unfortunately happen. And unfortunately, I think a few weeks into it, we're going to be begging and pleading for the nothing ever happens chud to come back. And I'm going to have to find a meme here, because when things start happening, we're going to wish nothing. You're going to really wish that nothing ever happens. But at certain levels, many even with India, Pakistan, other things, people have been vindicated on the nothing ever happens question. Except this is unfortunately from libtards talking about there's no actual protests. So once again, nothing ever happens, not true. Things do be happening. People do be dying. That's real. So, don't let the fact that, things haven't popped off to where they're affecting suburban Americans yet, quote unquote, discourage you. Because when things happen that are affecting you in suburban America, that means things are getting really bad. And again, Metropolitan Neophytos, Metropolitan Tychikos, these hierarchs being persecuted, especially Metropolitan Neophytos, he seems to think that even with his own persecution right now, that it is going to be the prophecies that resolve and sort of just move things along in a way where the current persecution that he is undergoing isn't going to be particularly relevant. So keep the whole situation in your prayers, obviously. And I think, again, nothing ever happens really only means that me, myself, and my chair in America am not being, actively assaulted or physically, kinetically involved. And well, that's also true for a lot of people back home, even during World War I and World War II. So you always got to change your kind of standard for what it means for something to happen, I think. But thank you to everybody who's tuning in. Solid audience here tonight. Some real heroes. We got Zach, we got Paisios, we got Father James, we got Gregory. Always a good time here having some good people in the chat here. World War Now Extended Universe, cozy chat hours time. I'm watching some more content here, keeping a live update on Telegram of the ongoing protests. There are apparently protests now unfolding in Raleigh, North Carolina. Someone said something earlier. I'd seen a lot about this as well. Yeah, Humble Potato says Randy Weingarten is currently organizing riots around the country called No Kings. I pray most of them will be Karens and it won't start of any anarchy. Yeah, these No Kings protests, very on the nose for communist leftist protests. The anti-monarchist spirit is very present, and that shows that, you know, in America, when there isn't even a king, who are they protesting against? With quote unquote no kings. Well, largely, I think obviously they're claiming to be protesting against Trump, but I think they're protesting against the King of Kings. The revealer of Revelation. The Lord Jesus Christ Himself. And of course, for those that don't know, I just thought it'd be funny to review for some people who Randy Weingarten is, who is, of course, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, which is, one of the worst labor unions in the United States, maybe the worst labor union. Of course, affiliated with the AFL-CIO, which is the American Farmer Labor Party. It's pretty much the Democratic Party of like Minnesota and these other places. And she, of course, is a New York City Jew. I mean, Weingarten, mother's maiden name, Applebaum. So another Jewish revolutionary using labor and the discontent of labor to protest against the natural order of things, being a king and a authority and a religious nature to a country. Jonathan Kelly, 9.99. Quick, take this. Thank you. I will. It has been taken. Appreciate the support. Big $10 into the vault to keep the show, keep the train running, to keep the coal firing into the engine. So thank you very much, Jonathan. You're greatly appreciated. So it appears that, now that the weather has warmed, the revolutionary spirit is back in people's blood. People are getting antsy. Protest time is back. This summer might be one of the bigger protesting summers we've seen in a few years. But again, I'm very skeptical that it will reach 2020 Summer of Love George Floyd levels, because there's just not as much sympathy for left-wing causes right now. Trump won the presidency. Generally speaking, more people are hoping for a move in that direction, even if that initial excitement in the first 100 days of his presidency has dissipated. And while unfortunately, I think that a lot of this will be used to, turn the state into a more authoritarian apparatus for persecuting critics of Israel and whatnot, due to, the AI regulations, even in Trump's big, beautiful bill, all the Palantir stuff. But right now, obviously, I resolutely stand against the brown horde of protesters who are standing for anarchy, standing for openly advocating for the great replacement. What is this sound? Ah, yes. This guy was talking in the background. But people openly advocating for my replacement for, white genocide effectively. I have to stand against that, and I have no problem watching the Marines or the National Guard or the LAPD, whoever it is, crack skulls on these people that are organizing for an alien invasion of my nation. So I want to see total order restored. I want to see these things totally cracked down on. But unfortunately, if this type of chaos continues and spreads across the country and takes on an openly kind of anti-state, anti-Trump, anti-administration, anti-ICE kind of flavor, we could see Panopticon Palantir control grid Zog system deployed much more quickly than we would like. So I think the reality of the situation is that even though these protests, the energy might not be there, the fact that the demographics are there is the evidence of what's going to happen in the future. I'm trying to find the white demographics clock that has the countdown. I know the Daily Stormer used to have it. Yeah, we've got, according to the demographic countdown clock, we have 18 years, 114 days, 22 hours, 22 minutes, and 33, 32, 31 seconds until the United States is a majority non-white. I'll share this tab here. People want to see the graph. This is the reality of the situation. You see America is 57.5% white, 42.4% non-white. White population of the United States over the white percentage of the global population is 11.5%. And it ticks down. You can see here every second. But unfortunately for the rest of the world, the United States has to be more thoroughly invaded. And that's what we're looking at right now. And it's a very sad thing to see. And when you watch old footage and you watch how this country used to be, and you realize, just imagine if this country had 45 million less people, and all those people were some of the, lowest agency, least productive people in society. Just imagine how much less traffic there would be. Imagine how much less expensive things would be. Imagine how much cleaner things would be. Imagine how much quieter it would be. Imagine how much less environmental impact there would be. And you start to think about this and you start to get very depressed and black-pilled and thinking about, how did it get this way? And ultimately, people are just going to have to realize that it may never be the way it was, but it can be a lot better than it is right now. And for the sake of your own children, this demographic security situation is the most important thing you can do outside of how you raise them in the church and how you impart the Christian spirit and the Christian heritage and inheritance onto your family. And seeing what's happening in Los Angeles, the fact that over nothing more than some law enforcement officers deciding to actually enforce the law, this horde of invaders, of imported people, can rise up and cause a national incident just because they now demographically outnumber the core American, European, white population of this country. So again, Jonathan Kelly, yes, my train ride to the city would be much quieter. Public transportation could become nationwide if every major metropolitan area didn't have a demographic bomb baked into it, with the new arrivals combined with our own our original import that we brought over on those ships. But I'm always on the Daily Stormer. It's sad Andrew Anglin, he retired. Just too bad. He was a very talented writer. I hope he comes back. He was okay. He was very curious and interested in Orthodox Christianity as well. So pray for him. I know even saying anything about him and associating with him, people are like, oh my gosh, you like Andrew Anglin. But he was a smart man. And I don't know how authentic his Christianity was, but he did claim to be a believer, and he was sympathetic to Orthodoxy at one point. I think was even attending liturgies. At one point, he lived in Moldova. So I know he was exploring that. So pray for him. I hope he's doing all right now that he seems to have announced his sort of stepping back from writing and journalism and all these sorts of things. This is breaking news. DNC Vice Chair David Hogg endorses socialist candidate Zoran Mamdani for New York City mayor. This comes as Hogg remains under scrutiny for his initiatives to primary elected Democrats and continues to fight with party leadership over endorsements during primary races. Well, Zoran Mamdani, for those that don't know, you saw that debate in New York for the mayor with, Andrew Cuomo, these other goobers trying to be the mayor of New York. And everyone, of course, said, my first visit would be to Israel. Because 50% of the white people that look white in New York City are Jews, if not more. So you got to appeal to the richest demographic, the richest, most powerful demographic in the city. And then you've got Zoran Mamdani, who's thinking he can ride the coattails or just ride enough energy of the anti-Zionist, anti-Israeli progressive vote by him saying he wasn't going to visit Israel. He believes Israel shouldn't exist as a Jewish state, but as a free state, a secular state. He said this openly. So he's trying to ride the wave of progress. He's trying to get all the minorities, Muslims, progressives, all those people that, don't support the genocide in Gaza. He's thinking he can ride to victory on that when everyone else is sort of splitting the more moderate Jewish progressive vote. I'm assuming it's going to be, the final round is going to be Mamdani versus Andrew Cuomo. And for the sake of New Yorkers, as much as it's annoying to see this Jewish shilling, you got to hope Andrew Cuomo wins, because if these progressives get in, it's everything Eric Adams has done to somewhat crack down on the crime wave that de Blasio let run rampant. That's going away. So you got to hope that some Italian goober that loves Jews, like Andrew Cuomo, gets in for no other reason than he's probably going to even increase police presence, maybe even start things like stop and frisk. Some of these probably won't happen, but if it did, it would be great. But yeah, God bless Andrew Anglin. Got to pray for him. But we're getting close to 45 minutes here. Again, I'm very tired, so I apologize if this is a lower energy stream. Send a super chat if you want anything answered, please. I'm ready to dive in, discuss anything. If there's any stories you guys have noticed, wanted me to talk about that I missed, please send it my way. But I think here pretty soon, in a few minutes, I'm going to hop on over, and you know what time it is. It's time to play some Ethnoguessers. So stay tuned for the the most fun and wacky and very racially sensitive, definitely not racially insensitive, the most diverse gaming show on the internet, and that is me playing Ethnoguesser. Zach says, you sound heavily allergized. I don't think it's really allergies. I'm tired. I have a really bad canker sore right here. So trying to talk, my whole mouth hurts. It's unfortunate. I was like laying in bed earlier and I had to it was like 7:25 and I was like falling asleep. I had to force myself to get up. So I do have allergies, but I don't feel it happening too bad right now. A little bit congested, but yeah, that's Austin for you. That's what it's like being vaccinated in Austin. And by vaccinated, I don't mean COVID. I mean my childhood vaccines that caused my airborne and foodborne allergies that I'm currently cursed with. Paisios asks, any update on church persecution for Metropolitan Tychikos of Paphos? We just know that he appealed to the ecumenical patriarchate, which means that he's the bishop for 6 more months. So he's pretty much in charge, which is good. Maybe some things will change, but you just got to keep him in your prayers. Vaxxed, unfortunately, as a baby, they got me with some of that silly stuff, which is why I have nut allergies to soy protein and chickpeas, cats, other such things. So it's over. Oh, I've taken my ivermectin in the past. Don't worry. But I guess another update I could talk about on Sunday night, I was at the $1 Million Extreme Peace World Peace Season 2 premiere here in Austin at Vulcan Gas Company. That was fun. Saw Sam Hyde, Charles, Nick, Chris. Bert was there from Fish Tank, Alex Stein, and it was great. I can confirm Extreme Peace is fire. Everyone should buy it when it comes out, I think in 6 days, June 16th. I think is when Extreme Peace, $1 Million Extreme drops. So I think everyone should check that out. Well, the premiere that showed the first 2 episodes, 6 episodes, and I've seen the first 2. They projected them on the screen up there. It was amazing, very funny. So that's coming up. I encourage everybody to get excited about that. But as the truth remains, Antiochian and Icanian chickpeas. It's brutal out there. Sometimes I can't eat half of the spread at coffee hour, but I can confirm on Mount Athos, they don't really be messing with chickpeas or hummus. So I was able to go to Mount Athos and be completely fine. But unfortunately, the Lebanese Syrian food, I'm not able to eat as much of it as I would like. But yeah, MDE World Peace, check it out. Some very good stuff. But of course, I'll be answering people's questions if they want to send in anything else. But it's time to share screen and play some Ethnoguesser. So confused. Where's the option? Don't tell me they took away my ability to stream Ethnoguesser, bro. Now there we go. That doesn't make any sense. This is the wrong tab. There we go. All right. Time to lock in. Daily game. All right. This looks like a Slav. I'm getting Northern Slav energy here. The nose is a little suspicious, I'll be honest, but I think I think these are some, I think Eastern Ukrainians, even Poles. I think we're going here. Yep. Norids. Central European type that closely resembles Dinarids, except for lighter pigmentation. Same number common in Austria, Slovakia, southern and eastern Germany. So these are more like Eastern Germans. But perfect score, great way to start. Maybe we get a perfect 10 out of 10. My first Ethnoguesser 10 out of 10. All right. Are these more Khoisan people? Or are these people from, I think these might be people from over here in Southeast Asia. I'm almost thinking like Malaysia or some of these islands somewhere. Yeah, maybe Maldives or something like that. Looking like here. I was right the first time. I shouldn't have moved it. Oh well. You all saw I got it right the first time. But yeah, glad I didn't go Khoisan. Oh wow, this one interesting. I could have gone Madagascar. This part of Madagascar and gotten this one. So we got to stay open to those ideas. But not bad, 2300. Let's go to the next one. Oh boy. I think these are Aboriginals. No, not again. Not again. The extinct Tasmanian subrace of Aboriginals. European colonists wiped out the type within a few decades by war, displacement, and most importantly, introduced diseases. However, a few descendants of mixed ancestry remain. Rip Bozo. Also, notice how there's no difference between the male and female. Interesting. This is interesting, of course. If you watch Gerbert Johnson, who I do, everyone should watch Gerbert Johnson. Humans have the largest disparity in gamete production, and basically humans are the most gendered race. The sexual differences between male and female are the most pronounced in humans compared to any other mammal. Meaning the fact that on average women produce 400 gametes, as in 400 eggs throughout their entire life, whereas men will produce billions almost sperm cells throughout their entire life. There's no other mammal that has that high of a gamete disparity. And that, I think, and that means in certain mammals and certain creatures with lower gamete disparity, the males and females look the same, meaning sort of the less complex the creature. And here we're looking at, this extinct Aboriginal subrace here, and the male and females look exactly the same. So we're almost sort of regressing to a less disparate gamete synthesis or gamete difference here, a less broad distinction between their gamete productions as they get a little bit less complex, as it were. So interesting scientific observation from anthropologist Conrad here. But next face. See, these types of light-skinned looking people, I'm pretty sure these are, people in the South Pacific, but I don't know if they're in Africa. I really don't know where in Africa they would be. They'd be some smaller little jungle tribe somewhere that isn't, the most, I doubt they're a majority in any kind of nation state or anything like that. What are y'all thinking on this one? South Indians? I don't know. Man. I'm almost more thinking straight Tongans or like straight people from Bougainville or something like that. Yeah, I think these are some island boys. I'm almost wondering if these are Maldivians. I'll go back Maldives again. Dang it. Itids. These are darker people on the Philippines and Indonesia. Should have known. I should have known. That face feel, and having wine and guessing the race in chat. Paul's having a fantastic evening. Before the show came along, how else were you going to be able to enjoy your Tuesday evening at this level? We're going to the next face. All right. White American. That's what this looks like, but they don't have that. So these could almost just be Scots. I think I'm going to go here. Boom. Borderby, ancient Northern European variety, named after some Neolithic Borderby skulls of Denmark. Emphasize resemblance with Cro-Magnons. South Norway, North Germany. This is basically what I am. I'm like half this. So this is 50% what I am, but got a perfect score, 5,000. We're back. These have to be Africans, I feel. I think these are on the continent. But what part of the continent is the question? I'm almost thinking somewhere down here. Oh, these were abos? That's bad. We're just going to forget that even happened. Forget that. Okay. All right, we've got some Asiatic natives of some kind. The question is, are these South Pacific people, or are these like people out here, or are these more like, are these plains people of some kind? I guess they could be South America. Let's try here. Ah, Brazil. I was not going to get that, if I'm being honest. So could have been worse. Definitely could have been worse. Quick update, riot update. Governor Newsom says that over 200 people have been arrested so far at the riots. So law and order is happening in some capacity. But let's move on to 8 out of 10. Oh boy. Why does the dude looks almost Middle Eastern and the woman looks straight African? Wow. This one is tough. This is not good. I'm thinking like Madagascar, Pakistan, Oman. Yeah, this might have to be like Sudan, Egypt. Almost something like Pakistan is an option here. But the woman is like African looking. Is this like Egyptian, like Arab Sudan? I don't know. The noses look weird. The noses don't look right. Yeah, we getting some Zanzibar shit here. Oh my gosh. You guys suck. I'm done trusting chat on this one. Yeah, these are the noses were the noses were abo, and I should have trusted it. Should have trusted it. Should have gone with that. We're forgetting that one happened. Okay. This looks like some of this. I'm getting major this from these people. I'm noticing low canthal tilt on the man and the woman. Mildly hooked nose, thin lips. Celtic. These people have dark eyes. These are dark-eyed people. These are not Northern Europeans. Maybe Central. Maybe something going on in Central European. But I want to go. These aren't Caucasoids per se. I mean, I'm thinking like right here. Oh boy. These are Basque people. These are Basques. Not good. This one's embarrassing. This is something I should have known. I'm internalizing this. All right. Locked in. I will now remember what Basque people look like. All right. Final round here. 10 out of 10. Boom. Okay. Asians. Are these just Japanese people? I think these are just Japanese people. Yeah, I don't think this is that complicated. I think these people are just from Japan. Yeah. Dang it. I'm only in the top 27% today. Major tone. I was top 10% last week. So, bit of a decline, but we did get this one perfect. So, that's what we like to see. $2 from Paisios. Thank you, sir. What's the next monastery you're going to? Well, I'm sure it will be Holy Archangels because I go to Holy Archangels all the time. I was just there and will probably be there again very soon. But as far as next monastery I'll be visiting elsewhere, I don't know. If I'm able to go abroad, it'll be somewhere there. But I don't know. There's a good chance it'll be St. Anthony's, maybe Holy Cross in West Virginia. I really want to visit St. Saba's in Detroit. The one I've probably been meaning to visit for the longest and happens that kind of owe it to them the most is probably All Merciful Savior up in Washington. So if I could teleport right now, it'd probably be up to Vashon Island. So I could see Abbot Trifon, Father Martin, and all the brothers up there and hang out with them. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. I really enjoy the Ethnoguesser. I think everyone has a good time. Lighthearted, nothing crazy. We're not racist. We love everybody. We want the whole world to become Orthodox, but it's always fun to poke some fun and have a good time. You know, make fun of some people, make some ethnic jokes, get some things wrong, look like a fool on stream. It's always a good time. So thank you all so much for tuning in. But we're probably tuning into getting close to the end here. I want to make sure everybody, let's check out World War Now, the home base. You're looking at it right here. Be sure to check out the latest episodes. Check out our most recent episode of World War Now, where we discuss all sorts of very important topics. Looking at the thumbnail, I mean, we got to take some time to admire our thumbnails, guys. Look at this. You're not getting better thumbnails from any shows than this. We got Hegumen Abbot Gabriel, we got Metropolitan Neophytos, we got the whole Trump Elon situation. Look at these maps. You're not getting maps anywhere else like this. Really up to date stuff. And then if you haven't already, be sure to get behind the paywall and ask a question in our Q&A thread. I don't want to spoil any of the questions, so I don't want to show it to anybody else. But, whoops, not everyone needs to be seeing my Substack DMs. But, hold up. But if you come on over to, whoops, never mind. We don't need to share all of that. But if you check out the Q&A thread in the Substack chat, you can ask us any questions you want. I'll even drop the link to it right now. Get behind the paywall. Ask us any questions right here. It's in the chat right now. We got Reno Embre with $2. Thank you, Reno. Thoughts about Andrew Wilson? I love Andrew Wilson. I like Andrew. We're mutuals. I'm a fan. I don't necessarily watch a lot of his content, not because of anything personal. I just don't have time to watch a huge amount of all the content. That doesn't directly have to do with my research, for example. But like I said, I critiqued him for trying to do the whole neutral stance, not care about Israel or Palestine. I just think that's rhetorically weak and sort of incorrect. I think the Palestinian cause is obviously the just cause, the side that Orthodox people should support. Again, I think his critiques of Israel and the America First stuff, he's not very willing to take it to the point of, talking about the Jewish question. I also think just in general, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to get on here and be, smoking and swearing and everything, but I'm not judging Andrew for doing it. He's got an entertainment style. I think he's a good, decent enough Christian apologist. So again, I'm not a hater, but again, it's not like I'm a huge listener. We've had Rachel Wilson on the show. We love her. She's fantastic. So again, it's not like I'm not here to endorse everything the Wilsons ever do or be their handler or anything like that, but I consider Rachel a friend. I think Andrew makes good content. I would happily collaborate in the future. I would love to go on his channel or something, have him on to talk about something, depending on the topic. So I think that's that. So thank you, Reno, for the $2. Crow-Eye Conrad, very true. I'm the king of my little domain here, this stream. Not much else, but we take what we can. Apparently, Gavin Newsom tried to give an address to the state of California, and there was no audio, so that is funny. But seems like we're running out of super chats here, so if you have any final questions, be sure to send them in. But be sure to check out that link that I just sent on the Substack to ask us any questions. We're going to be recording that tomorrow, so this evening is the best time to get those questions in before I lock the thread entirely, and Dimitri and I tackle those questions tomorrow in our upcoming Ether Hours. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Keep posted on the riots. Follow us on Telegram at World War Now Telly. That's where you can stay up to date on our 24/7 news feed that we provide for you free of charge here, of course, at World War Now. Another good reason to support us financially and get behind the paywall at worldwarnow.co. But if you haven't already, be sure to like the stream on YouTube or on X. If you're on X, like and retweet the stream. Please, if you're on YouTube, like, comment, do everything you can. Really helps us out. Be sure to, again, get behind the paywall. The replays of this stream are uploaded to Substack every following day, so you get it on there as well. No excuse not to be on there. $2 more from John D. Rock. Thank you, John. Are you going to keep growing the beard? Probably not. It's getting itchy. It's getting a bit uncomfortable. Probably going to shave it in the next week, actually. But I'm glad everybody likes it. I was never the biggest beard grower. I was never able to grow a very good one, so I appreciate everyone complimenting it, saying it looks good. As an Orthodox person, you want to be able to grow a beard, right? So I'm glad it's able to happen. Right now, it looks pretty good. I have a bad habit of picking at it down here. You can see I pull hairs out, so it looks really stupid. But I think it looks okay right now. The mustache is actually visible. It's usually very invisible because the hairs are blonde. So I'm looking all right. Thank you for praising the beard. If we get more maybe if we get some more signups, if a few more people sign up behind the paywall, maybe I'll keep the beard if that's what people want. If people want me to keep growing the beard, if that's, I don't know. I do kind of want to shave it. I had to trim it the other day. It was getting unkempt and unseemly. I had to do some mustache trimming, some loose hair trimming, but that's what you got to do, I guess. So maybe people can let me know in comments on future episodes if they want me to keep the beard. But if there's no other questions, if there's no more super chats, I think it is time that we wrap this up. I'm going to turn in, try to get some shut-eye, catch up on a bit of sleep. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, worldwarnow.co. If you're not already behind the paywall, please get behind that paywall linked down below. Helps us out. Like the video. Join us every week, 7:45 p.m. Central Time. I'm Conrad Franz. This has been World War Live. And again, weekly stream. Come here every Tuesday. Invite your friends. Come in and hang out. I'm thinking in the future we'll do some calls, Discord or somewhere, or Twitter space, somewhere where I can talk to you guys, have some people call in, have some haters call in, maybe, get into some blood sports, get into some disputes and arguments, yell at some people that want to tell me that I'm the biggest idiot in the world. We love doing all of that. We love talking to the haters as well. So thank you all so much for tuning in. And we will see you, I guess the next time I talk to you will be on the Ether Hour Q&A this week, followed by World War Now. And then next Tuesday, I'll be right here at the same place. So I'll see you there. Thank you so much for listening. And God bless. Let me get the outro going here. So again, thank you all for listening, and God bless. Hope everyone has